My name is Jim Halbeisen. I'm Director of Research for Growers Mineral Corp. And I have Mike Bulcher and David Armstrong on my podcast for Growers Mineral Corp. And we're going to talk a little bit about the state of agriculture. Dave is from Iowa. Mike's from Ohio. So they're going to talk a little bit about their operation and then what they're seeing out in the field. So Dave, kind of give them where you're at geographically, and we'll go from there.
Yep, I'm like Jim said, I'm Dave Armstrong. I'm from South Central Iowa, Deep River to be exact, right along Interstate 80. And I run a cow-calf operation. We do some row crop. We do some side work also, too. We got a little construction company that we run and do some tree removal and bulldozer business for some local people. Always been involved in agriculture, graduated from high school in 1982 during the farm crisis, and watched Dad's farm machinery and all of our hopes and dreams go down the road, and just really was stricken by that. Dad went on to take a construction job with a local construction company, and I went on to take some mechanic schooling. After that, I come back home and realized I was dissatisfied with probably being a mechanic, and a job was hard to find. So I set out to figure out what I could do to make a living farming, and we tried some programs and did some strategizing on how to make that work. Bad economics, prices weren't any good. We were predominantly a hog farm at the time. Hog prices were very, very low, and productivity was just hard to make a living out there. So I did some looking and some searching and did some farm show research, and I was doing a mechanic job. I actually formed my own shop and was doing outsource work for the community, welding and repair and different things, and was pretty good with doing some technical work, but I still wasn't satisfied with what I was doing. I wanted to farm. Dirt was in my blood, and just wanted to see what I could do. So I started looking around doing farm shows and come across a booth at the National Plowing Matches in Amana, Iowa, and was introduced to this company, Growers Mineral Solutions, and their program. And they explained the simplicity of their program and how we could put things to work, not spend a lot of cash, make a good crop, and got my attention. And so I started with them started with this company back in 1989. And since then, I've continued on. And
talk about your limestone, how you use that. Talk a little bit about gypsum.
Oh, yeah. So went to quite a few forums to try to learn. This company taught me quite a bit, but I decided, I wanted to continue to learn. And I'm always wanting to validate what somebody's teaching me, make sure that they are telling me the straight story. And so I started doing a little bit of talking and learning and understanding. But this company really promoted I get the calcium values at the proper value in the soil to make sure that we had the nutrient come to the availability that we needed it to be, rather than buy a bunch of fertilizer to make that nutrient availability to supply the crop for the reproduce. And started learning about calcium, but I learned about a product called gypsum, which is calcium sulfate. And not knowing much about it, I decided to implement some program facsimiles myself to see what the proper level would be. This company was teaching me I needed to figure out the level of calcium I needed to bring all the nutrient to the forefront so I could raise a crop and not buy a bunch of extra fertilizer. So I found out about gypsum, and I implemented some high gypsum plots, which I was very well scrutinized about. I was told that them levels will never work. They're too much. That they would sterilize the field, and there was all kinds of things that happened, but nobody really knew. But I'll tell you, after I did my experimenting and with the tutoring and the mentoring of the director of research from this company back in the early 80s, I found out what the truth really is, and the industry doesn't tell you the truth, and that's what I found out. And I think that's very interesting. So I've pledged allegiance to this company because we're always out there doing things on our own and trying to figure out what the truth really is.
Thank you, David. Okay, Michael, tell them where you're from and your operation and what you're doing.
Sure, I don't know if I can top that, but anyway, my name is Mike Bulcher from West Central Ohio. Cow-calf operator too, and we do some grain also. I'm third generation using this product.
Fantastic.
Here, as well as representing the company. Sure. So, yeah, it's I guess I didn't have the experience of doing other things like many other guys did, but
you were contaminated on the shoot.
I did grow up with this and knew this program well, and I have seen it up against other programs and how it works. And as far as crop yields, quality, and livestock health, I believe it is very good fit for our operation.
Yeah. So what exactly are you doing in your operation as far as crops and livestock?
Well, we do corn and beans, cow-calf, like I said, and then we got pasture. We do wheat and hay.
Yeah. In your business, you're doing some work in Kentucky. How does that differ from where you're actually farming yourself?
Well, of course, down there, the lay of the landscape with the hills and stuff, they have very good dirt, and then stuff that's pretty challenging to farm. One of the things that I know of working in the Kentucky area is they do have a challenge finding the right lime source, depending where they're at.
Talk about that a little bit on the lime source.
Well, Ohio, Indiana, and Pennsylvania, and probably Michigan classify their lime altogether different. We look for that 8-to-1 ratio of calcium to magnesium, and then of course we like an analysis that's fine because of availability, because that will help the producer, the farmer, whatever, apply, I want to say less of it, but be more efficient the way he applies it, because when it is finer, it is more readily available to do what it has to do in the soil. And in Kentucky, they're a little bit different down there how they classify their limestone, because they go by the calcium equivalent part of that test, which the only problem with that, with working with our program down there, is we're looking for that 8-to-1 ratio calcium magnesium, the high calcium lime. We're down there, they classify it different, so we have to really look carefully at what they're presenting as far as calcium magnesium ratios and that type of thing, because they're looking at pH adjustment and we're looking at getting calcium levels in the soil.
One thing I'd like both of you to comment quick, we're getting out of time here, is your nitrogen application on corn. Well, how do you guys look at that? I mean, are you undercutting your neighbors quite a bit? We do that in our operation, and I'd just like you guys to comment quick on that.
Yeah, I mean, for us in our area, typically most farmers will put on 180 pounds, and they split that up with some at planting and then some at lay-by, where we're just putting the product itself on in furrow and then coming back, say, foot tall or 14 inches in that neighborhood, and side dressing 35 to 40 pounds.
Yeah. Okay.
So quite a bit less.
Sure. David?
Yeah, no, my operation, when I first started this company, I didn't have any cash flow. I had no borrowing ability, so we started out with using the GMS product in furrow and very minimal amount of nitrogen. And as I grew and understood that, I increased my nitrogen input by the value of the crop that I got, so the response that I got for the dollar in, the dollar out, I wanted $2 back for the dollar I spent. Found myself at a plateau between 90 and 135 units of N on an annual basis. It seemed to be, in lay there quite a bit, so I managed that. I usually roll it on in furrow. I go 5 to 7 leaf stage, and weather permitting. But no, I just really understand and believe now that when you bring, the soil values to what they should be by the use of the calcium that Mike talks so well about, that we can really reduce that nitrogen input.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you.
This podcast has been brought to you by Growers Mineral. Please visit growersmineral.com.